Good morning. This is Dr. Iftikhar Ansari, and I'm from Department of Political Science, and I'm going to talk today about relation of political science with other allied sciences. And in today's talk, I'll be talking about its relation with economics and history. Now, we all know human knowledge is divided into two: natural sciences and social sciences. Natural sciences deals with physical world, and social sciences deal with human beings, their collective social life, social behavior, organizations, and activities. So, man is a social animal, and he lives in society, and there are many dimensions of his social life: economic, political, psychological, historical, sociological, etc. Now, these multidimensional man needs to be studied in relation with other sciences and other subjects. So, during the past couple of decades, a new approach has developed in the study of social sciences, and this is known as the interdisciplinary approach. And it means that researchers and students of other sciences they should coordinate with the students and researchers of other sciences, and they through that specialized knowledge try to help each other and develop a comprehensive study of their subject. Now, this totality cannot be studied by separating one aspect from the rest. So there is a need for cross fertilization, and it is strongly felt, and it is being implemented. And one of the strong votaries of this cross fertilization is David Easton himself, and he maintains that specialization among social sciences was a matter of accident earlier, but now it has to be introduced deliberately, and that was way back in 1950. But later on, under the impact of the behavioral revolution, it became a reality where this interdisciplinary approach was adopted at all levels, and that introduced empirical theory as a study of political phenomena after World War II. Although earlier also it was done, but more comprehensive it started to be done after the Second World War. So here the political scientists they concentrated their attention on the study of political behavior and political institutions and their attitude of political man, that is the citizen itself. So the application of the scientific method to the study of political phenomena and the behavioralism itself emphasized the need for this interdisciplinary study in politics. So instead of giving a positive study of institutions, uh, it talked about giving stress on a government, its constitution, then organs of government, etc., from sociological or from economic point of view or from other allied disciplines. Now, political science borrowed as a bargain many theories and methods and techniques and concepts from other social sciences in this relationship. So, new theories are adopted from other disciplines, and we can name a few like decision making theory, structural function theory, action theory, system analysis. So, new concepts like political culture, socialization, political communication, political development, these are a certain new entrants into political science, which talks about how much we borrowed from other allied sciences. Now, this change of emphasis and change in theoretical framework has caused the development of interdisciplinary study in politics. Now, this so-called behavioral revolution, based on empirical theory in American science of politics, has given importance to this type of study in politics. Now, political science is a part, and that too an integral part of the social system, and there goes on mutual inputs and output with these political and social system. With that, we come straight away to talk about the relation between politics and economics. Now, economics, as you know, is primarily associated with the economic activity of society and material well-being of man. It is also called the science of wealth. Objective is the study and analysis of mode of production of a given society and the economic well-being of man, negative functional maintenance of law and order and justice to perform. So now the state interferes in economic affairs, and economic functions are its main functions. So important political ideas like liberty, equality, rights, and justice, they are also associated with economics, and the economic dimension is the most important one. None of the issues of politics can be discussed fruitfully without reference to economics, whether it is domestic or foreign policy. Economic issues determine and direct it. Major parts of the political interest is made up of economic interest. So all the political ideas and issues have some economic base. Every war and aggression has an economic motive. If we talk about main influence of economics on politics, we find that here there are economic causes behind every political revolution. All political ideologies like liberalism, socialism, communism, imperialism, fascism, they have economic basis. The hunger for economic exploitation is the cause of the war, we know that. And the First and the Second World Wars were caused by the expansionist desire of imperialist powers. So the political behavior of man and association is influenced by economic factors. So political structure is closely associated with economic structure. Economic factors have widely contributed to the origin and development of state, and the main function of modern welfare state are all economic. So there are economic motives behind political laws and policies. Political ideas like liberty, equality, rights, social justice, democracy, etc., can only be evaluated on economic basis. So the subject matter of both these is the social man, and the objective is social welfare. So if we see the influence of politics on economics, so economics does affect politics, but the opposite is also true. Politics influences the economic system. Change in government, political instability, war, etc., influence the economic system drastically. State decides and defines all the economic policies and regulates the economy. Economic planning is one of the important functions of modern state. The state plays an important role in production of goods, its distribution, then price control, currency, budget, banking, export, import, etc. So the modern state, as Galbraith writes, is an industrial state. In class divided societies, where class struggles is fundamental, societies cannot be kept united without assigned due economic role to political power. So the state and politics try to act as a shock absorbers, mediating between the struggling classes. State cannot end, and the class struggle remains. And the state regulates; it can slowly put it down to some extent. So main object in such activities is to maintain the status quo. The state tries to check the bourgeois by left and the working class by its right hand. So an unjust economic order, capitalism, for example, cannot maintain itself without the help of politics and the state. The so-called equilibrium in society is maintained by the political system. Because law of capitalist economy, competition, exchange, demand, supply, wages, profit, rent, etc., have lost their potentialities of bringing about any kind of welfare to the masses. So perhaps that is why political interference in economics matters has been introduced by the bourgeoisie in liberal societies. So state tries to maintain this equilibrium by taxation on the rich and by welfare services to the poor. State controls industries, the distribution of system. So essential commodities are supplied by the state at controlled prices, the weaker section to the weaker section of society. It's now well accepted that economic frustration and relative deprivation lead to aggression and revolution. So politics tries to save the system from aggression, revolution, by reducing the economic frustration among the masses. So state is not viewed as a trespasser in economic affairs, but is welcomed as a most honored and most honorable guest. So moreover, state monopoly, capitalism is developing in all the bourgeoisie societies. Thus, politics has become some kind of a sanjeevani, we can say, a medicine that can save life to the class divided capitalist economy. Now, this interdisciplinary approach that we are talking about that leads to a relationship, a harmonious relationship between various allied sciences, we find that in our times, economic and politics cannot be studied by separating them into watertight compartments. Political systems cannot be meaningfully looked into without consideration of the stage of development of economic system. For example, the politics of developing countries cannot be studied without due consideration to the requirement of their economic development. Now, nowadays, politics and economics are being replaced by political economy, which is quite appropriate. In a class divided society, all the problems like political stability, harmony, equilibrium, cooperation, etc., are primarily economic in nature. So, the object of political power is mainly to serve the economic interest, and political behavior is dependent on economic conditions and motives. That is why both these disciplines and aspects of social study cannot be discussed separately and need to be studied together. Now, if you see the difference between politics and economics, we find the main difference are as follows. Like, first, politics is concerned mainly with political life of man, which includes political views, activities, associations, etc. So, economics is concerned mainly with material life of man, which includes productive system, production relation, price, value, etc. And politics is concerned with human values, whereas economics is concerned with prices. So politics is related with power in society, economics is concerned with economic system and wealth. Politics is normative and moral, economics is more descriptive. According to Marxism, economic system constitute the substructure or the base, and the political system is part of the superstructure. Now, that was the relation that we found between these two, economic and political, how they are dependent. Now, we move on to the next allied subject and see its relation, how it is related with politics. So, that is history. Now, how history is related to politics? So, history basically we know is the study of man, human society, association, states. It gives information about the rise and development and the fall of states and other human associations. It tells us about the changes and cause of changes. Cause and effect relationship of social phenomena can be understood by scientific understanding of history. So, history is not merely concerned with past happenings or contingencies or events, but it also enriches our knowledge about the process of change in society. So, history projects a scientific understanding of the past, which enlightens the human understanding of functioning legitimate or furnishing legitimate generalization. So, laws of social development and change, the proof of change, etc. All these are provided by history. So many contemporary writers like Fisher, Oakeshott, Popper, Berlin, others have expressed although skepticism about the scientific nature of history. They represent what they call historical reaction and obscurantism. They view history as the study of past occasions because they believe that history is a world in itself. It's composed wholly of contingencies where events have no over or any kind of a pattern of purpose. So, historians like Collingwood and E.H. Carr have criticized the skeptical outlook towards history. Especially, E.H. Carr insists that the dual function of history is to enable man to understand the society of the past and, on the basis of the understanding, increase his mastery of the society of the present. And he further believed that history can scientifically investigate and analyze and can legitimately generalize and predict, teach lessons, act as a guide to present and future actions. So, the object of the study of history is the same as that of all the social sciences, that is, development of man and society by increasing human mastery over his environment. So, E.H. Carr further writes, saying that scientists, social scientists, and historians are all engaged in different branches of the same study, the study of man and his environment, of the effect of man and his environment, and of his environment on man. So, the object of the study is the same. So, to increase man's understanding of environment and mastery over it, to change it or to use it in its own or harness it in its own benefit. So, thinkers like Popper have attacked the scientific approach to history, maintaining that no specific law of social development can be found by the study of history. Popper maintains that to find a determined law of social development from history is historicism. So, attacking historical method, he maintained that there is a difference between scientific prediction and historical prophecy. So, he flatly rejects the view that predictions are possible with the use of historical method, and clarifying his attitude towards historicism, he says, "My attitude towards historicism is one of frank hostility, because upon the conviction that historicism is futile and worse than that." So, the view of history, as explained by Popper, is at times misguiding because an objective study of history is not futile. The law of social development discovered by scientific study of history do not rule out the whole of rationality and human activity in shaping the state or society. Karl Marx himself said, "Man makes their own history, but they do not make it just as they please. They do not make it under circumstances of their choosing. They do make as per their circumstances, which they themselves have chosen, but under circumstances directly encountered, given, and transmitted from the past." So, history guides human actions by giving knowledge about the laws of social development, and only an objective study of history is fruitful. If we see how history and politics are interrelated, we find that there is a close relationship between the two, and the saying of Lord Acton suffices here when he says the science of politics is the one science that is deposited in the stream of history, like the grains of gold in the sand of a river. So history is the past politics, and present politics is future history. Further, Seeley says history without politics or without political science is no fruit, and political science without history has no root. Similarly, Salto says history is really the past tense of a subject of which political science is the present. So both these social sciences are interrelated, emphasizing the consequences of the separation. Berger says separate them, and the one becomes a cripple, if not a corpse, and the other will o' the wisp, that is mere mirage. If you see the influence of history on politics, we find that history describes past events, movements, revolutions, national movements, their causes, their interrelations. It gives information about the origin of the development of political institutions, thoughts. So, in the course of politics, which are taught in various universities, there are many papers related to colonialism and nationalism, history of national movement, constitutional development, history of international law, history of political ideas, etc., concerned with history and are common to both the students of history and political science. So, when various issues of concepts are discussed in politics, generally their historical developments are also taken into account. So, without understanding the past, without knowing the cause and effect of relationship of various phenomena, neither can the present be understood, nor the line of action for future can be determined. There is continuity and change in the political process. History gives us the record of these continuity and these changes, suggesting ways to change the present into a better order. By the study of history, students of politics can find out meaningful pattern and information which guide them in understanding the present, outlining the future, and in working out the process of change in the present time. So, present politics is rooted in the past. Thus, history is a key to the roots of politics. It's like an X ray film which helps in the diagnosis of the evil of present politics. So, without historical foundations, politics becomes merely speculation. History is not only a guideline, but it's also a laboratory of politics. On the basis of past experiences, we learn to change and not repeat our mistakes. So, experimentations in politics is a costly affair. Moreover, it's a better if we can learn from the mistakes and experience of others rather than from our own. So history provides us as an example on the basis of which we can learn from the second-hand mistakes, if you call and use that term. So the history of Indian politics from 1975 to 77 will be illuminating to all those future rulers in India. That is a period of emergency. All those rulers who want to or who have nursed an ambition of becoming dictators or have a design of imposing their sons and daughters and their loyalists on the Indian masses. History thus is a laboratory where we can learn not to repeat the mistakes of others. So, if you see the influence of politics on history, we find without politics, history is nothing but the love affairs of kings, princes, queens, and the story of various wars won by heroes. Without description and analysis of political events, history merely becomes a cheap literature which cannot be used for furthering the interests of humanity and human knowledge. Political ideas and thoughts, leaders and motives have contributed in shaping human history. However, politics is not the most important factor in history. Economic factors have also contributed in shaping history more than politics. Without understanding political concepts such as democracy, liberty, equality, etc., political ideologies like liberalism, Marxism, fascism, it's not possible to understand historical process. So political revolutions have contributed to making the history of society. American American history began with American Revolution in 1776 and French from 1789, Russia and China from 1917 and 1949 respectively. Thus, politics is not a beggar at the door of history. It has influenced, in fact, history itself. So, interdisciplinary approach of politics and history, we find the development of behavioralism in contemporary politics has brought about this unwarranted separation between history and political science, which has shifted the balance to more realistic analysis of politics. The relation and equilibrium to solve the political problems, planning, cooperation was suggested, and it was disputed that history can give only piecemeal kind of inputs in furthering the cause of politics. So it was through the problem of the 20th century that that uniqueness of having separating. I mean, it was the influence of behavioralism which separated the two, and the politics has drifted as a result from history and ethics and came closer to psychology, sociology, economics on the other. So contemporary Western students of politics do not agree that the cause and the relation effect of various phenomena, that the study of politics are out of tune with the present one. So traditional description and historical, methodological, historical, uh, empirical method does not give much importance to historical facts. And Charles Merriam himself argued, talking about historians, that the study itself is irrelevant study because it ignores the political aspect. So in brief, contemporary politics and complaint and their complaint that historical methods fail to analyze the social and political phenomena. The difference between the two, difference between politics and history, is if you find we find that history is wider in scope than politics, because apart from political history, sociology, economics, culture, and religious history is included in it, and it also includes the history of art and language. So history is concerned mainly with the past, whereas politics is, and other sciences, concerned with the present and future also. So politics is both normative as well as descriptive. History is mainly descriptive. History provides events in the chronological order, whereas politics is concerned with analysis of these events and tries to find out the cause and effect of relationship of historical events. Now, summing up, we can say that political science, as the discussion in this chapter points out, is related to the number of disciplines. And there are concepts which are driven from other sciences. And for the proper understanding of political phenomena, one has to rely on a number of other sister disciplines. So the current trend towards system analysis of system analysis of political life reflects the need for broad-based understanding of politics. After all, social sciences have branched out for the sake of specialization, but political reality is part of larger social reality that has to be understood by stepping out of the narrow disciplinary boundaries. Thank you.